It begins in silence. Not the kind of silence you notice, but the kind you feel. A soft withdrawal, a sacred closing of the gates. Not out of malice, not in bitterness, but as an act of power. You stop answering every call. You stop showing up out of obligation. You stop explaining yourself to people who never truly listened. And then something begins to shift. The world reacts. People notice. Opportunities once denied seem to appear from nowhere. The very fabric of your reality starts to bend around a new center, you. Carl Jung once whispered through his writings, a truth too fierce for the noise of modern life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But he said something else too. Something hidden, something subtle. That availability is energy, and energy is your ultimate currency. When you are endlessly available, you become invisible. When you withdraw, you become a mystery. And in that mystery, your power returns. This video is not just about setting boundaries. It's about alchemical withdrawal. It's about reclaiming your psychic energy, learning how your presence or absence is a tool of transformation. We'll explore the ancient roots of this wisdom, from Hermeticism to Jung's shadow work, from the esoteric laws of vibration to the quiet teachings of mystics long forgotten. You'll learn what happens when you stop giving yourself away, and why doing so isn't selfish. It's sacred. Stay with me, because once you stop being available, everything changes. Long before smartphones demanded your constant attention, before calendars were colonized by meetings and obligations, the ancients knew a secret. Silence is sacred. Absence is influence. In the Egyptian mysteries, the god Thoth, keeper of wisdom, scribe of the gods, was said to retreat into the hidden dimensions when the world became too loud. His knowledge was not offered freely. It had to be earned, sought out, deciphered. His very inaccessibility increased his power. In Hermetic philosophy, drawn from Thoth's legacy and passed into the Greco-Egyptian wisdom schools, a foundational law was taught. As above, so below, as within, so without. To master the outer world, one had first to master their inner availability. Not to everything, not to everyone, but to the self. The divine spark buried beneath societal roles and expectations. The Greeks echoed this too. Pythagoras required 5 years of silence from his disciples before they could even speak in the mystery schools. Why? Because the tongue, when undisciplined, leaks power. And where there is no control, there is no mastery. Fast forward to the early 20th century. Carl Gustav Jung, Swiss psychiatrist, mystic, and a lab coat, revived this esoteric current in the language of psychology. He noticed a dangerous trend. People were fracturing themselves in the pursuit of approval. They were becoming too available to the world and completely unavailable to their inner being. Jung saw how individuals stretched themselves into masks, what he called the persona, just to be liked, accepted, or validated. But what happens when you live for others' gaze? You disappear from your soul. And so he taught the path of individuation, a sacred withdrawal from outer noise to rediscover the totality of the self, both light and shadow. To withdraw from unconscious conditioning, from fake obligations, from inherited roles, not to run away, but to return to the center. In Eastern traditions, we find the same rhythm. The Taoist sage speaks less, acts less, but his non-action creates balance. The Buddha withdrew into the forest, not to escape the world, but to penetrate it more deeply. So why has this ancient truth been forgotten? Because we are conditioned, programmed, to equate availability with worth. Always answer the call. Always be reachable. Always be seen. But in truth, what is seen too often is taken for granted. The mystics knew, to be truly powerful, you must become rare. Not scared out of fear, but intentional out of sovereignty. Jung did not ask you to abandon the world. He asked you to stop being consumed by it. to reclaim the energy you scatter in every yes that should have been a no, to withdraw your light from those who only seek to dim it, to understand that being unavailable is not rejection, it's selection. It's saying, Saktina, I know my value. Not everyone gets access to it. This is the lost philosophy of presence through absence. It's not retreat, it's ritual. And when practiced consciously, it turns your life into a field of magnetism, where your very being begins to call in what aligns and repel what no longer serves. There's a moment, precise moment, when you stop answering the texts. Stop saying yes when your soul screams no. Stop bending your spirit to please the world around you. And that moment, that's when the universe shifts. Not because you're rejecting life, but because you're finally choosing yourself. Carl Jung knew this intimately. He didn't speak about boundaries in the language of trends or self-help slogans. He spoke of psychic energy, what the ancients called vital force, prana, chi. This energy is limited. You only have so much to give each day. But instead of honoring this truth, we leak it. We give our energy away, drip by drip, through constant availability. We say yes to things we hate. We answer calls we dread. We engage in conversations that numb the spirit. Why? Because we're afraid to be alone. But the secret is this: the person who masters solitude becomes magnetic. Jung believed that when you're always available to the world, you become fragmented, split between the outer persona and the inner truth. You wear masks for different people, play roles for different situations. But behind the performance is the self, watching, waiting, aching to be reclaimed. Withdrawal, then, is not weakness. It's not abandonment. It's a sacred act of alignment. It's how the soul retrieves its scattered parts and comes back into wholeness. Consider the archetype of the hermit, found in the tarot, in Gnostic texts, in countless spiritual traditions. The hermit steps away, not because he hates the world, but because he seeks a higher light. He climbs the mountain to light the lantern, not just for himself, but for those still wandering in the dark. Jungian psychology reveals this same truth in different words. The process of individuation. It is the gradual unfolding of the true self from the illusions of conformity. It starts when you stop being available to the roles you never chose, the expectations that weigh like chains, the relationships that drain rather than nourish. And here's the twist: when you withdraw from those things, you don't become invisible. You become illuminated. People start to wonder where you've gone, why you no longer react the same way, why their usual hooks don't catch you anymore. That's because you're no longer operating from the conditioned mind. You're now moving from the deep center, the self, the Atman, the divine core. You've unplugged from the matrix of expectation. And in that unplugging, something powerful awakens. Presence, gravity, silence that speaks louder than noise. This is when things start to change, fast. You begin to notice the people who only loved your compliance. You begin to see the systems that fed off your attention like parasites. And as you pull your energy back, the false falls away. It's terrifying at first, because when you stop being available, you lose things. Friendships built on convenience, jobs that demanded your obedience, identities that were never yours to begin with. But what you gain is you, and you are not ordinary. You are a constellation of unseen truths, ancient codes, dormant magic waiting to be reawakened. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege demands a cost. You must stop being available to everything that isn't you." And here lies the paradox. The moment you become unavailable to the false, everything real begins to find you. There's a sacred paradox hidden in all ancient wisdom traditions. To become full, you must first become empty. To attract more, you must stop grasping. To be truly seen, you must first disappear. This is the secret Carl Jung understood, and what most of the modern world has forgotten. When you stop being constantly available, you are not creating distance. You are creating value. Let's be clear. Availability is not the same as presence. Availability is reactive. Presence is intentional. Availability is being on call to the world's noise. Presence is being attuned to the whispers of your soul. You see, society tells you to be reachable, always open. But that's a trap. Because the more reachable you are, the more used you become. Jung would call this the loss of the self in service to the persona, the mask we wear to fit in, to be liked, to survive. But when the persona dominates, the self withers. This is why your absence becomes your power. Because when you step back, when you vanish from the chaos, you become a mirror. Others are forced to confront their projections. They wonder, why did you disappear? Did I lose access to something sacred? Was I taking it for granted? In your silence, they hear their noise. In your absence, they see their emptiness. And that mirror, it's transformative, if they dare to look. In mystic traditions, this is called initiated absence, a ritual withdrawal, like a monk entering the cave, a shaman walking into the wilderness, or a seeker entering solitude. It is not avoidance. It is not punishment. It is alchemical separation, the first stage of transmutation. Remember, gold is not found in busy marketplaces. It's pulled from deep within the earth, far from the noise, pressure, and constant distraction. So too must the self be retrieved. But here's where many falter. They fear being seen as cold, distant, or arrogant when they step back. They believe detachment means disconnection. That's the myth. In reality, the deeper you go into yourself, the more capable you become of true connection. Because you're no longer relating from need, you're relating from wholeness. And wholeness is rare. Wholeness is magnetic. When you walk into a room rooted in your own energy, grounded, sovereign, calm, you don't have to chase anything. People feel your presence before you speak. Opportunities align without force. Even chaos begins to organize itself around your stillness. This is not magic. This is energetic law. The Vedas called it tapas, spiritual heat generated through intentional withdrawal and discipline. Hermeticists knew it as reculer pour mieux sauter, to retreat in order to leap further. It's the same in nature. The tide recedes before it crashes into the shore. The archer pulls back before releasing the arrow. The moon disappears before it becomes full again. So, when you retreat, don't apologize. When you choose solitude over social obligation, don't explain. When you protect your silence, your energy, your time, don't justify. You're not being difficult. You're becoming disciplined. And the world, though it may resist at first, will begin to reflect your new vibration. You'll notice people treating you with more reverence, not because you demanded it, but because your absence taught them something your presence could not. This is the deeper esoteric meaning behind Jung's ideas, that individuation is not about becoming better, it's about becoming real. And to become real, you must stop being available to what is false. So step back, not in anger, not in fear, but in sacred devotion to yourself, because when you do, everything changes. You've heard the philosophy. You've felt the truth stirring inside you. Now let's bring it down from the mountain and into your hands. Because knowing that absence holds power is one thing. Living it, that's initiation. Let's begin where all sacred transformation begins, with awareness. Ask yourself this simple, terrifying question. Where am I too available to the world and unavailable to myself? Is it your phone? Is it a relationship that drains but never nourishes? Is it the compulsion to say yes to avoid discomfort? These are not innocent distractions. They are leaks, tiny fractures in your spiritual field. To seal those leaks, you must create what the mystics called sacred boundaries. Not walls, not armor, temples, spaces in time and attention, where only the sacred may enter. Where your energy is preserved, refined, and sanctified. Start with a daily ritual of withdrawal. Simple, deliberate absence. Mornings without noise. No phones, no messages. Just breath, body, and awareness. 1 hour a day of total invisibility. Let no one access your mind during this time. Speak less. When you do speak, speak with weight, with presence. Decline with grace. Not every invitation is sacred. Learn to say no without guilt. Disengage to detox. 1 day a week. No social media, no artificial stimulation. Let your nervous system recalibrate. These aren't lifestyle hacks. They're spiritual fasts. Ritual acts of detachment that strengthen the self. And now, let's go deeper. Visualize yourself as a magnetic field. Every time you overextend, apologize unnecessarily, or chase validation, your field weakens, scattering your power. But each time you choose silence, stillness, or sovereignty, your field strengthens. You become denser, heavier, more real. That's why mystics were feared. They didn't speak much, but when they did, the air changed. You can reclaim this sacred weight. Here's a powerful exercise rooted in both Jungian active imagination and ancient esoteric practice, the mirror ritual. Each night before sleep, sit in front of a mirror in silence. Light a single candle. Gaze not at your face, but into your own eyes. Ask aloud, where was I available today? Where did I betray my energy? Where was I sacred? And where was I scattered? Please don't say anything more. Just listen. Let the subconscious speak. When clarity comes, blow out the candle and sleep. Let the insight ferment. This daily mirror work anchors your awareness in the real. It prevents drift, and it calls the self back from the 1,000 places it was given away. And finally, begin cultivating what Jung called the inner sanctuary. A part of your psyche no one else is allowed to touch. Not lovers, not friends, not mentors. This is your holy of holies. Guard it. Nourish it. Let it become your source of vision and vitality. Because the truth is, the world won't honor your absence unless you do. But when you treat your energy like something sacred, so will they. Not out of fear, but out of resonance. Because you've become the temple. And in the temple, there is silence. And in that silence, the divine speaks. So, what happens when you stop being available? The world shifts. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You're no longer a frequency that can be exploited. You're no longer a mirror for other people's projections. You're no longer a soul on standby, waiting for permission to be whole. You've become something else entirely, a presence, a force, an unmoved mover. This is what Carl Jung pointed to. Not just the psychology of individuation, but the alchemy of being. That when you withdraw from the chaos, you begin to radiate something terrifying and beautiful, authenticity. And the paradox? The moment you stop being available for the world's noise, the world starts to listen. People treat you differently. They pause before speaking to you. They feel your silence before they hear your voice. Not because you've demanded respect, but because you've become it. In your absence, the sacred returns. In your stillness, the universe begins to whisper. So I'll leave you with this. What if the things you're chasing are only running because they're trying to escape your desperation? What if you don't need to be louder? You just need to be less available. Because the self is not a performance. It's not a product. It is a quiet, burning truth beneath the rubble of who you thought you had to be. Withdraw. Not to disappear, but to reappear in your full power. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs you, real, rooted, and sovereign. And if this message found you in the right moment, perhaps it was never about finding answers, but remembering what you've always known. If this resonated, stay connected with this space. Like, comment, and share it with a soul who's ready to reclaim themselves. Until next time, honor your silence, guard your fire, and walk as the temple the world forgot to kneel before.